The park was serene, with soft sunlight filtering through the leaves, casting a warm glow on the figures below. Zyla perched on a bench, her large, expressive eyes fixed on a human couple walking hand in hand. They laughed softly, exchanging glances filled with something Zyla couldn't quite grasp. Her head tilted slightly, her brow furrowed in concentration. The couple stopped by a fountain, and the man leaned in, pressing his lips to the woman's forehead. Zyla's eyes widened in surprise. What was this? A form of greeting? A gesture of comfort? The connection between them seemed deeper, more intimate, than anything she had seen among her own kind. She leaned forward, trying to decode the silent language between the two humans, her curiosity bubbling up like the fountain's water. Dr. Emily Hart stood nearby, observing the alien with a gentle smile. Zyla's fascination with humans had always amused her, and today was no different. She approached the bench, her footsteps light on the gravel path. Zyla turned at the sound, her eyes bright with the excitement of discovery. Dr. Hart! Zyla's voice was soft, musical, and filled with the wonder of a child discovering the world for the first time. I've been watching those two over there. What are they doing? Why do they touch each other like that? Emily chuckled, sitting down beside Zyla. They're a couple, Zyla. They care for each other very much, so they express it through touch, like holding hands or kissing. Zyla's gaze shifted back to the couple, her brow knitting in confusion. Couple? You mean they're bonded? In a way, yes, Emily replied, choosing her words carefully. They're romantically involved. It's a special kind of relationship humans form when they feel a deep connection with one another. Zyla's face lit up with a mixture of understanding and further curiosity. So they're like lifelong companions? Exactly. They support each other, share their lives, and often have children together. Zyla's eyes widened again. Children? Oh, I see. So that's why they bond, to create offspring. Fascinating. How do they do it? Emily paused, a hint of hesitation crossing her face. The question was innocent, but the answer, well, it was complex. Well, it's a bit more complicated than just bonding. It involves a process called reproduction where… Reproduction? Zyla interrupted, leaning closer. How does that work? I've heard of different methods among species, but I've never learned about the human way. Emily smiled, her amusement growing. It's a natural biological process that involves both the man and the woman. They share genetic material to create a new life. Zyla nodded, her expression serious. And does it require this closeness? This physical touch? Yes, Emily replied, her tone gentle but firm. It's a very intimate process, both physically and emotionally. Zyla's mind raced with the implications, her curiosity unfazed. She absorbed the information, her thoughts weaving together a picture of this strange, beautiful human process. Then, after a moment of silent contemplation, she turned to Emily, her eyes wide with an innocent, earnest question. Wait, she said slowly, as if piecing together a puzzle. Humans reproduce like that? Can I try too? Emily's mouth fell open, caught off guard by the sincerity of the question. She blinked, searching for the right words to explain why that wasn't possible, or appropriate, but finding herself momentarily speechless. Zyla looked up at her, completely oblivious to the complexities and cultural boundaries her question had just brushed against, her eyes still shining with that pure, unfiltered curiosity. Emily took a deep breath, considering how to approach the explanation. Zyla's eager gaze was fixed on her, full of anticipation. All right, Zyla, let me try to explain this in a way that makes sense. Human reproduction is a natural process that happens between a man and a woman. It begins with an act of physical intimacy, where they come together and exchange genetic material. Zyla's eyes sparkled with fascination, her mind fully engaged. So, it's like combining parts to create a whole? Like how our engineers build new technology? In a way, yes, Emily replied, smiling at the analogy. But it's more organic and involves emotions as well. The process starts with the union of the man's sperm and the woman's egg. When they merge, a new life begins to form. This new life grows inside the woman's body until it's ready to be born. Zyla nodded slowly, her expression serious as she absorbed the information. That sounds very complex. And it requires both individuals to be very close, doesn't it? Yes, very close, Emily confirmed. It's not just about the physical aspect. There's also a deep emotional bond that often accompanies it. Humans generally form a strong connection with one another before they engage in reproduction. Zyla's mind was racing, comparing what she had just learned to her own species. In my species, reproduction is more functional. We don't require this kind of emotional connection. Our offspring are created in specialized chambers where genetic material is combined and nurtured until they are ready to be introduced to society. Emily leaned in, intrigued. That's fascinating. So there's no physical intimacy involved? Zyla shook her head. No, it's purely biological and mechanical. We focus on the genetic perfection of the offspring rather than the emotional aspects. The idea of forming a bond before reproduction is quite foreign to us. Emily smiled thoughtfully. I can see how our ways would seem very different. For humans, the emotional connection is often the most important part. It adds depth to the relationship and to the act of creating new life. Zyla's face lit up with a mixture of understanding and curiosity. So, the emotional bond is what makes it special for humans. It's not just about creating life but about sharing something profound with another person. Exactly, Emily said, pleased to see Zyla grasping the concept. It's a deeply personal and meaningful experience for many people. Zyla pondered this for a moment, then looked up with an innocent, almost childlike curiosity. Do you think I could try it? I mean, not in the reproductive sense, but to experience that emotional connection? Emily blinked, momentarily taken aback by the question. She quickly composed herself, realizing that Zyla's question was born of pure curiosity rather than anything inappropriate. Well, Zyla, that's a bit tricky. Emotional connections, like those humans experience, aren't something you can just try out. They develop naturally over time between individuals who share a bond. Zyla nodded, looking slightly disappointed but still thoughtful. After a brief pause, she brightened up. What if we developed a technology that allowed my species to experience something similar? Not for reproduction, but just to understand the emotional connection humans feel. It could be an interesting experiment, don't you think? Emily couldn't help but laugh, both amused and impressed by Zyla's boundless curiosity and innovative thinking. That's certainly an interesting idea, Zyla. But human emotions are complex and can't be easily replicated. Still, your enthusiasm is admirable. Who knows? Maybe you'll come up with something groundbreaking. Zyla grinned, clearly thrilled by the thought of a new project. I'll start working on it right away. It could bring our species closer together, just like humans. Emily smiled, shaking her head slightly in disbelief. Only you, Zyla, could turn a simple conversation into a revolutionary idea. Zyla couldn't stop thinking about the idea. The concept of human emotional connections had sparked something inside her, an unquenchable curiosity. She spent hours in her workshop, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Her species had never prioritized emotional bonds, but what if they could? What if she could create a device that allowed her people to experience what humans did, even just a fraction of it? She began sketching designs, her hands moving rapidly as she imagined how the device could work. It needed to be simple yet powerful enough to simulate the emotional connection humans shared. The challenge was immense, but Zyla was undeterred. This could change everything for her species, bringing them closer together in a way they'd never experienced. Days turned into weeks as Zyla refined her ideas, driven by a sense of purpose she'd never felt before. She knew she couldn't do this alone, though. The complexity of human emotions required more than just her understanding. She needed help, and she knew exactly who to ask. Zyla reached out to Dr. Hart, her voice filled with excitement as she explained her idea. Emily, I think I've made some progress. But I need your help. You understand human emotions better than anyone I know. Would you work with me on this? Emily was taken aback by the request, but the sincerity in Zyla's eyes was undeniable. Of course, Zyla. I'm not sure how much help I can be, but I'm willing to try. This is ambitious, to say the least. Zyla beamed, her enthusiasm infectious. I'm confident we can make it work. With your knowledge of human emotions and my understanding of our technology, we can create something amazing. The two of them dove into the project, joined by other human scientists who were equally intrigued by the challenge. The laboratory became a hive of activity, filled with the sound of discussion and the hum of equipment. Ideas were exchanged, debated, and refined as the device slowly began to take shape. Ethical questions arose, and they were careful to consider them. Could they replicate something as profound as human emotions without unintended consequences? What would this mean for Zyla's species? They debated long into the night, ensuring that their creation would be used responsibly and with the well-being of both species in mind. Finally, after countless hours of work, the prototype was ready. It was a small, sleek device, designed to be worn like a piece of jewelry. Zyla held it in her hands, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was it, the culmination of her obsession, her hope to bring something new and meaningful to her people. She turned to Emily, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. I'll be the first to test it. If this works, it could change everything. Emily nodded, her expression a mix of pride and concern. Are you sure you're ready for this, Zyla? Emotions can be overwhelming, especially if you've never experienced them before. Zyla smiled, her determination unwavering. I have to do this. For my people. For myself. With a deep breath, Zyla activated the device. The room fell silent as everyone watched, holding their breath in anticipation. At first, nothing happened, and then, slowly, Zyla's expression began to change. Her eyes widened, her lips parted slightly, and her breath hitched. The emotions flooded her senses, overwhelming and beautiful all at once. She felt a connection, a warmth that she had never known. It was more than she had expected, more than she could have imagined. Tears welled up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the sheer intensity of the experience. Emily stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on Zyla's shoulder. Are you okay? Zyla nodded, unable to speak at first, her emotions too powerful to articulate. Finally, she managed to whisper. I never knew, this is what it feels like. It's incredible. And so, complex. Emily smiled softly, understanding the depth of what Zyla was experiencing. Human emotions are like that, beautiful, messy, and sometimes overwhelming. But they're also what make us who we are. Zyla wiped away her tears, a look of awe on her face. I think my people need to feel this. It's more than I ever expected. The room was filled with a quiet respect as everyone realized the magnitude of what had just happened. Zyla had taken the first step towards something extraordinary, bridging the gap between two very different species in a way that had never been done before. Zyla found herself overwhelmed by the emotions that now surged through her. What had started as a fascinating experiment quickly became a torrent of feelings she couldn't fully understand or control. There was joy, so pure and intense it brought her to tears, but also sorrow, creeping in unexpectedly and leaving her feeling vulnerable in a way she never had before. Her once clear thoughts were now muddled, a storm of emotions clashing inside her, leaving her confused and unsteady. She wandered through her daily routine in a haze, struggling to reconcile these new feelings with her previous understanding of herself. Simple interactions that once seemed straightforward now carried emotional weight. She began to see her fellow beings differently, noticing nuances in their behavior that she had never paid attention to before. The world around her felt both richer and more complicated, but the depth of it all was disorienting. She questioned whether she had made a mistake, whether these emotions were too much for her to handle. Unable to cope with the intensity on her own, Zyla sought out Dr. Hart. Emily noticed the change in Zyla immediately. The once confident and curious alien now looked lost, her eyes shadowed with uncertainty. Zyla, what's going on? Emily asked gently, guiding her to a seat. Zyla hesitated, her voice trembling as she spoke. Emily, I didn't expect this. The emotions, they're overwhelming. I feel so much, all at once. I don't know how humans live with this every day. Emily listened carefully, her heart going out to Zyla. It's true that emotions can be overwhelming, especially when they're new to you. But they're also what make life rich and meaningful. You don't have to navigate this alone. I'm here to help you. Zyla looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. But how? How do I make sense of all this? One moment I'm happy, and the next, I'm sad for no reason. It's exhausting. Emily smiled gently. It's about finding balance, Zyla. Humans learn to live with their emotions over time, to understand them and let them guide us rather than overwhelm us. It's not easy, but it's part of what makes us who we are. Zyla absorbed Emily's words, feeling a bit of calm return. So, you don't always understand your emotions either? Not always, Emily admitted. But we learn to accept them, to let them flow without trying to control them too much. It's about allowing yourself to feel and finding ways to express those feelings in healthy ways. Zyla nodded slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. Thank you, Emily. I think I understand a bit better now. It's just so different from anything I've ever known. Emily placed a reassuring hand on Zyla's. You're doing something incredibly brave, Zyla. Exploring new emotions and understanding them takes time. Just remember, you're not alone in this. As Zyla began to come to terms with her emotions, word of the device spread through her society. The reactions were mixed. Some were fascinated, eager to explore this new frontier of experience, while others were wary, even fearful. The idea of experiencing human-like emotions was both intriguing and terrifying to many of Zyla's people. For a society that had always valued logic and efficiency over feelings, this new development was a potential disruption to their way of life. Debates erupted among the leaders, with some advocating for further exploration of the technology, seeing it as an opportunity to evolve their species. Others warned of the dangers, arguing that such a profound change could lead to chaos and instability. Zyla found herself at the center of this controversy, feeling the weight of her actions more than ever before. After much reflection, Zyla made a decision that surprised even herself. She gathered the device and brought it to Dr. Hart. Emily, I've realized something important, Zyla said, her voice steady but sad. My people aren't ready for this. The emotions, they're too powerful, too complex. We've lived without them for so long, and introducing them now could do more harm than good. Emily looked at her with understanding. Are you sure, Zyla? This was your idea, your dream. Zyla nodded, her resolve firm. I thought we were ready, but I was wrong. Maybe one day, we will be. But for now, it's best if I destroy the device. The knowledge I've gained from this experience is invaluable, and I'll keep it close, but I need to protect my people from something they're not prepared to handle. Emily sighed softly, respecting Zyla's decision. You've shown incredible wisdom, Zyla. It takes courage to step back and recognize when something isn't right. With a determined look, Zyla deactivated the device, rendering it useless. As she held it in her hands, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey had been difficult, but she had learned more about herself and her people than she ever expected. And while the device was gone, the experience and understanding it brought would remain with her, a quiet reminder of the complexities of life and the depth of human emotion. Zyla sat quietly, reflecting on the journey she had undertaken. The intensity of human emotions had once overwhelmed her, but now, after everything she had experienced, she found a sense of peace within herself. She no longer felt the need to mimic humans or to push her species towards something they weren't ready for. Instead, she appreciated the beauty and complexity of human emotions, understanding them as a unique aspect of their existence rather than something to be replicated. She realized that her own identity, grounded in the traditions and logic of her people, was just as valuable. The emotional journey had taught her to embrace who she was, to find balance between curiosity and contentment. The desire to explore new frontiers was still there, but it was now tempered with the wisdom of knowing that some things are best left as they are, at least for the time being. One evening, as the stars began to emerge in the sky, Zyla and Emily found themselves sitting together, the bond between them stronger than ever. The challenges they had faced had brought them closer, fostering a deep understanding and respect for each other's cultures. "Emily," Zyla began, her voice soft, "I've been thinking about everything we've gone through. I used to believe that emotions were something I needed to experience fully to understand humans. But now, I see that emotions are just one part of what makes humans special. They're not something that can be simply understood or replicated." Emily nodded, her eyes warm with understanding. "You've come a long way, Zyla. Emotions are a powerful force, but they're also deeply personal. What matters is how we use them, how we let them shape our lives and relationships." Zyla smiled, a serene expression on her face. "I've learned so much from you, Emily. Not just about emotions, but about the importance of accepting who we are. My people may not be ready for the depth of human emotions, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from your experiences. There's value in our differences, in the way we approach life." Emily returned the smile, feeling a deep sense of pride in her friend. "And I've learned from you, Zyla. Your curiosity and willingness to explore the unknown are qualities that we humans should cherish more. You've reminded me that there's always something new to discover, even within ourselves." Zyla looked up at the stars, her mind calm and clear. "I think it's time for me to share what I've learned with my people, not through technology or forced experiences, but through understanding. We can honor our traditions while also being open to new ideas. It's about finding that balance." Emily placed a reassuring hand on Zyla's shoulder. "You'll be a great teacher, Zyla. Your journey isn't just about emotions, it's about growth, understanding, and the bonds we form along the way. Your people are lucky to have you." As they sat together, a comfortable silence settled between them, the weight of their journey giving way to a lighter, more hopeful atmosphere. Zyla's thoughts drifted, contemplating how she would communicate her experiences to her people. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to take on the challenge, with the wisdom and calm she had gained. Before they parted for the night, Zyla turned to Emily with a playful glint in her eye. "You humans are full of surprises, you know that? I never thought something as simple as a feeling could lead to such an adventure." Emily laughed softly, the sound carrying a sense of shared understanding. "We do have a knack for that, don't we? But I think you've got a few surprises of your own, Zyla." Zyla grinned, feeling a warmth in her chest that she now recognized as friendship, pure and simple. "Maybe I do, Emily. Maybe I do." As the stars twinkled above, the two friends sat together, their connection a testament to the beauty of diversity and the strength of understanding. They had learned much from each other, and while their journey had come to an end, the bond they had formed would last a lifetime.